So each store had its own server system for file shares, for backups, for that kind of stuff. Everything was separate from the point of sale. All that stuff was direct to a server that was within the store that went outside for PCI compliance. Everything else within the store, technology-wide, you wouldn't believe in the back of a grocery store how many machines were there for each team. One of the things about being a federated business in a grocery chain is you might see 5 or 6 people on a floor, cashiers, someone in the front, maybe someone in a grocery aisle or a meat section. What you don't see is what's in the back of the house. In the back of the house, usually at Whole Foods Market, was roughly about 13 desks. And each one of those desks had a PC where everybody can do their order management, inventory stuff, and everything else that's provided from the regional offices.
Okay, guys, welcome back. We have a super exciting guest today. He's going to talk about an area of tech that we haven't got into yet, and that is the kind of fractional executive level. I know we have a lot of tech executives that check us out, and they're probably thinking they're eventually get into this fractional kind of space. And we have Mr. Daniel Dorb to tell us all about it. So Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I want to talk a lot about you had a very long run at Whole Foods.
Yes, sir.
I want to talk a lot about that, but how did you get to that point in your career?
So in the beginning of my career, I was always in the restaurant business. I went from California, starting in New York, then to California, and then wound up here in Florida. And after a while, when you get married, start thinking about being with your wife more than overnights and only in the morning. I decided to move on to the corporate world and to the point of sale business, which was a perfect segue. And then, from there, went to a land developer that was very eager for a retail manager and then a regional IT director. Mm-hmm. I was in that role for a little while. And then from there, wound up at Whole Foods Market.
Okay, so tell us about that. So that was like 2008-ish?
This is 2008 is when I started, correct? Yes.
Okay, so what was it like to get into Whole Foods then? They were kind of really on the uptick at that point, right?
Yeah, huge culture shock. I walked in with a suit and a tie. And as soon as I walked in the room, I saw nothing but T-shirts, Birkenstocks, and everything else that seemed to be for the beach or just to be relaxed.
This is for the interview?
This is for the interview.
Wow, okay.
Immediately, this is funny. Immediately, I said to everyone in the room, please, let me go change my jacket, change my clothes back to where I was as soon as I came out of the car, and can I re-interview? They all laughed. They said, no, don't worry about it. Just take your jacket off. You're all good. Just if you want to open up, take off the tie.
Yeah.
Let's go for it. That was a really interesting time. Within a couple of days later, they offered me the position.
What was that role?
Oh, sorry. It was a director of infrastructure for just the state of Florida. At that time, Whole Foods was a federated business where there was 13 different regions. They all ultimately reported to one. But when things came where we decided on what point of sale system to use or what kind of other supportability products that we wanted to use, we went into conversations with each other regions. Northeast was one, North Atlantic was one, Northern Cal was another one. Southern Cal was another one. So there's also UK was involved eventually. And we wouldn't be all on the same page where someone at the top said, this is what you need to do. Mm-hmm. So that was that beginning of that career.
Tell us about that interview. What was, obviously your point of sale experience came up pretty big.
The main focus is they had a huge drive back then when Wild Oats, I'm sure you might have or might not have heard of Wild Oats. They had one in South Beach that was converted to a Whole Foods. I was part of that as well. That was a lot of fun. Going from a store with ingredients that we couldn't sell because it's against the policies of Whole Foods Market, because that's the conscious world of what the conscious capitalism is all about.
Tell us about that.
So you can't really in Whole Foods Market have corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup in any of your products. And when we purchased that, Wild Oats, we had to redo the whole entire, product line and change things within the store and not have to worry about that product anymore to move it forward with the new name Whole Foods Market. It's part of the branding.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now this was a corporate job or you were more in a regional office?
Yeah,
they moved you down here.
Yeah, I moved in. So I was living in Parkland, Florida, in that area in Boca Raton, not Parkland, but the corporate offices were in Parkland for the previous job. And then Fort Lauderdale is where they had the Whole Foods Market office. I was a full-time employee. I followed a director all day long who was ahead of us. He was the executive director of the business. We called them coordinators. And I worked for him roughly for about 8 years, both on the side of infrastructure for the first 4. And then the other 4 was on the business systems. And I was full-time out of Fort Lauderdale on Federal Highway. And a very interesting place to be because there was a lot of growth during that time. They went from roughly 16 stores to about 24 during that time.
Just in South Florida?
Just in South Florida. But ultimately, it was about 488 globally. And by the end of my tenure, I think they blew it up to about 580. Please don't, correct me if I'm wrong. It's somewhere in the 5+.
Okay. So director of infrastructure, what was the infrastructure? Was it in store? Was it in corporate offices? What was that?
Yeah. So each store had its own server system for file shares, for backups, for that kind of stuff. Everything was separate from the point of sale. All that stuff was direct to a server that was within the store that went outside for PCI compliance. But, everything else within the store, technology-wide, you wouldn't believe in the back of a grocery store how many machines were there for each team. One of the things about being a federated business in a grocery chain is you might see 5 or 6 people on a floor, cashiers, someone in the front, maybe someone in a grocery aisle or a meat section. But what you don't see is what's in the back of the house. In the back of the house, usually at Whole Foods Market, was roughly about 13 desks. And each one of those desks had a PC where everybody can do their order management, their inventory stuff, and everything else that's provided from the regional offices.
So what were some of the problems you were maintaining or helping solve?
So actually, when I got there, I was helping them solve a lot of the problems they had with data accuracy, losing files, pretty much being kind of standard. So if you move from one store to another, everything was completely the same. Security was a big thing. Cybersecurity, obviously, during the early times. Email was a big challenge for a lot of people, storing a lot of email, teaching them about cybersecurity and making sure that everything was really great for as much uptime as possible within the store. During that time as well, we rarely had any downtime because there was a lot of repetitive systems in case something happened. And also, as I came in, there's a lot of changes that have happened for new POS, point of sale, which is the cashier station. And we went through a lot of changes with just even how customers order product for the holidays, for their holiday homes and turkey dinners and Christmas dinners and other holiday items, quicker, faster, easier. We wanted a faster basket speed, for checkout speed. We also wanted a more multiple basket count of how many items are in there. And back then, one of some cool systems that we try to introduce being innovative, which were just heat syncing camera systems, which can tell you where products are being sold and the routes of where the carts are going throughout the store.
Wow.
For actual physical, this is talking like 2013 or so, or 14.
So heat signatures of where most customers are lingering. So,
yep.
And so what would you guys do with that info?
So it's great. So, the end caps, they call them end caps. So when you go in a grocery store, you see aisle 1. Between aisle 1 and aisle 2 at the end is called an end cap. What we like to focus on is what we should put on the popularity to see if it's selling or not just through data in the back of the house. But there are actually physical heat maps of within certain window times. So when a customer is standing there, you don't see the customer. You just see how much heat penetration happens where a cart is stopped. Customer data is not at all part of this, is what I'm talking about. It's physically someone standing there where it's not officially the background that should be there. It's something covering it. So what it would do is you'd see a bunch of red at an end cap between a certain period of time, and you would know that it's a very hot item during a certain period of time, or a place where people like to go for traffic throughout the store. So maybe if we're selling something here like tomatoes, let's put some mozzarella next to it with some basil. I know it's not an end cap talking about grocery, but in the other departments like produce or in the meat department, what are people touching? What are the most popular items? And again, we didn't look at always the data. We looked at where the carts would stop for popularity within certain times.
Mhm.
That's when the pop-up cart came out later on, where you had somebody in the middle of a store come with a point of sale, and they would have like a little beer tent or giving you the opportunity to buy a sandwich or something inside of a certain area of Whole Foods.
Okay.
And customers would come by, they'd take your credit card, they would do all the information, give you your sandwich, your beer, whatever it is within the store, and you have a good day.
Yeah. And that's right around the time when like the point of sale industry was kind of on the way to what it is now, where
Correct.
every mom and pop just has the little,
Yep.
This is mobile credit card thing, right?
Back in the day of NCR and PosiTouch, and we used IBM NCR. Whatever was a good product out there, for the local region. Remember, it's still federated at this time.
So you guys had your own systems
in each
for the
region.
Florida region.
And we would take recommendations from South Pacific or the SoCal region or the Northern Pacific region and ask them, hey, what are you doing for this?
Mhm.
And we would get in touch with the vendors direct. We wouldn't have to ask permissions as long as the ROI is there and the presidents of the regions approve it. Then we would go ahead and go purchase the hardware, software, go through the contract negotiations and bring those products those tools within the stores in order to make it happen.
Was there, you say federated, now was there a CTO, CIO for each of the divisions, or was it all to one?
That's a great question. So I don't know if you're familiar with a federated business. So a federated business is really a one corporate entity. And then you have 14, Whole Foods had 14 spokes within the regions. Florida had nothing to do with the South region. South region and Florida had nothing to do with the Northeast region, and so on. So there were 13 of me that were within the whole entire company at that time.
How much communication did you have with, like, it's really your exact peers, but not really in a way?
Yeah, really. So we would have corporate meetings, just my own peers every so often. It's hard for me to remember if it was once a month or once every quarter, but we got to partner with them. We got collaboration. We had this environment of making sure that we were on the same page and seeing who has it. It gave us the opportunity to be better and a little bit more camaraderie within the business than it is to being a high corporate telling everybody down what to do.
Yeah.
Or be standard across the board. And this is pre-Amazon, by the way. This is not days of Amazon.
Yeah. I mean, like, what was the thinking there that, like, you guys wouldn't all be on the same POS system to determine what products were set? Like, it just seems
the only a good question to bring up, because we all focused on this one inventory management system, which held pretty much the data.
Mhm.
We all had our same core. The reporting ultimately from corporate and also in the regions came from a few locations at that time in a federated business where it's not all in one place. But we did have an inventory management system that was really good for us as a business, because we can all work off of that on finding out costs across the whole ecosystem of this federated business. If you go to SoCal, you don't want to pay $10 more for something here or $3 more or 30 cents more. You want to kind of keep it consistent unless it's in a certain neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say I really understood all of that during those times. It was none of that was under my jurisdiction in technology. It was just make sure we had uptime, quick sales, and I was the guy supporting it with a team, making sure that the place was up and running.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, the federated business became more corporate. As you know, Amazon purchased them in early or mid 2017. And I happened to leave before then, but within that year of that time, Amazon happened to, we didn't know who it was at that time. So we had a feeling that something was happening because, like I said earlier, there 13 of us became then 6. And then the 6 became 3. And then I said, okay, I'm going to go for a different position that's not consolidating. I'll go to the business system side.
Mm.
So as I'm in that business system side, this is more core, getting the information to the team members, how do we make things faster for them to operate? The physical data that's coming through. We got to make sure that it's appropriate and working, good. Just miscellaneous things for all the teams. It's not just within the stores, it's also in the corporate office. But the business system team started following the same suit. This is early consolidating in 15. So now that we had 13 of this group, it started getting further and further down. And I happened to leave Whole Foods Market right before, about a year before Amazon took over. I do miss it very well. It is an unbelievable corporation even today to work for. I got a lot of lessons learned from there and also tons of mentors. The whole conscious capitalism idea from John Mackey, which is the original CEO of the business. Today it's Jason Buchel. Actually, I worked for Jason Buchel. I was there in the beginning of his tenure. Really brilliant guy. Hopefully one day you'll get him on here.
Hey, Jason, we're waiting.
But you see him on videos sometimes, and he does the same thing like you. He does the podcast stuff, but he also obviously speaks to the people of the business because he is the co-CEO today. But anyway, back to the point. Great place to work. Great way to start your career in understanding bigger businesses, large creative businesses, and having a great opportunity to be, number one, creative and innovative. And, when you're recognized by people from other regions, which you fairly in the position I'm in, it felt good to move on and having the knowledge from being in a place that went from small to medium to now, this is no joke. We're going to be now an Amazon company, but not knowing it. So, anyway.
You were there for that kind of meteoric rise. Right.
Yeah,
I was thinking 2008 to 16 was it's when they blew up. Really.
Yeah. 16 when I left, the consolidations were really getting hard and heavy. So then it became that federated 13 regions to starting to become 2 or 3 or 4 regions. Today, I don't know how the full process works at Whole Foods. It sounds like it's corporate coming down from the top. I mean, this is what you see publicly. So I just hope they, keep doing what they're doing with getting to know your customer, getting to know those suppliers, and making sure that everybody's in sync together where, it's kind of like a kumbaya, I wouldn't say drink the Kool-Aid, but it's all about the benefit for not just one, the stakeholders and everybody else, but it's also, it's really getting everybody aligned and teaching them how to just be in a good environment and making things better for not just us, but for the world.
Mm-hmm. And was part of the federated aspect because everything had to be fresh and you needed locally sourced for a lot of, especially the produce.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you were getting
there was
different
rules
sources
behind how far it could be from.
Okay. And it had to be pretty close.
And I think today they still do the how many are local organics within the store. Mm-hmm. So what happens is, I don't know if they still list it on the wall of how many are local, but they should go back to that if it's not, because it makes you feel good as a customer that your stuff is local. And, you're doing something for a local supplier, which makes it good for the business.
Yeah. What about the business systems role? Anything else you want to share on that? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad. That's a good question to ask me because, we went through a whole rendition of going from an IBM system at your cash register to now this NCR system. And now today you see self-checkout in the store. Mm-hmm. I happened to not be there during the self-checkout period, but I was actually there doing the process of moving to the new ERP, which again, I don't know the latest, if it's still the latest ERP. It's called Infor back in the day. Mm-hmm. But, it was definitely part of an amazing engine of people and vendors and just everything to put this thing together. And being able to see that on the ground in the tactical details, which really helps you learn, and being part of it really helps you, think a little bit more than how we were thinking in the past to actually drive myself forward. And we'll get into this later, but drive into becoming who I am today and seeing the forest really through the trees.
Mm-hmm. And real quick, I mean, were you involved in the sales of the vendor products in their tech space? I mean, what were some of the crazier, people pull up with tickets or some, I don't know.
So there was some cool technologies. I think you see it today in some of the stores where the tags on the shelf are automated through some technology. We were just dabbing our fingers in it when I left. There was a system out of Georgia that we were using. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name today. But it was incredible, where you press a button and everything was live instead of hiring a person on the floor to replace the tickets on the shelves with the sales tickets, and it would all be automated and the colors of the designs, and it made life a lot easier for the end user and also the customer. But it did have to be audited. Had to be audited.
Of course.
There's a lot of rules there. If you find something on the shelf that back in the day where if it was mispriced or not priced, you get it for free. Again, I don't know. I don't think the accuracy. I think the accuracy today is a lot better than what it was.
Amazon
before.
has that lockdown, I'm sure. So okay, you move on from there.
Yep.
Let's talk about. So we're 2016.
Yep.
Let's talk about what happened then.
I was struggling for a while looking for a job. I took there was a little envelope there to make sure I can last a little while. So it was a good severance package I left.
That was part of the consolidation.
Yeah, the consolidation.
To make it a better sale for
Amazon. We didn't know that. I mean, but obviously it sounded like that was happening because it was happening to multiple people across the environment. I still speak to a lot of those people today, which is great because we still talk about things, which is great. But from there, I went into from Whole Foods. I went into trying to do it on my own. Just didn't really get the full concept of how I'm going to get all these additional people to help me, or where am I going to get my sales coming from? What am I going to be able to do? Just didn't work for me. So I wound up getting into another career into healthcare. I went into a business that was in Hollywood that sold insurance. So I went over to this insurance company, worked for them for a while. They were looking for someone to help produce a SaaS product, software as a service. This is where I got my real good hands into software development and making sure that I could lead teams on what the business requirements are versus what was being developed. And we were building out a Salesforce / open source software that was going to be available for a SaaS for other companies that wanted to sell insurance or other products. It's kind of like box it up, put your name on these things, and let's see what we can do. So eventually, after about a year and a half there, the company took a turn into opening up more locations. This is about the Obamacare era. And, they were selling insurance, they wanted to spend more time in that than building a SaaS. So it was more uptime and building out call centers in Mexico. And, this is great. I had an opportunity to build out call centers in countries that I didn't even have to go to. Wow. We can do it all remote with our suppliers that are over there that we know. It wasn't just Mexico. It was Dominican Republic. It was DR. Sorry. I'll have to come back to that one. So we build out these call centers, and then from there, it felt like this is great and all, but all I'm doing is selling insurance. Helping them keep this uptime. Maybe it's time for me to go. And I was the vice president at the time, trying to help build this thing out even further. And they were making so much hand over foot with this insurance stuff that, I left the company, and I happened to meet a gentleman that was looking for a Humana M&A project with Humana and Conviva down in Miami. It was several stores or medical services that needed to go from Humana to this new company called Conviva. And I really handled most of the, partially executive stuff with the rest of the group, but I really had to align myself with making sure that these centers were up and running, operational, on time and on budget. And I think this is in my career, not just in Whole Foods. We had a lot of this. We had to keep things in time and money being, on par. But here is where you're dealing with a major corporation. You have to be the best you can ever be. And we actually got this place up and running about a month earlier than proposed. And the reason for it is we worked with a company called Chestnut Hill Technologies. Just a little plug. And they brought in these tower leads that handled everything, including myself. and we built this thing out, and it really worked out for the business. I left there, and I was only on the bench for about 2 weeks, where I got the opportunity to work for a manufacturer, a global manufacturer in furniture. So I wound up being local to my home, working for a global manufacturer that built out indoor, outdoor, consumer goods that then eventually became e-commerce, living from home with COVID. We had to work from home during that time. And, this is where I spent probably the last 6 years of my career. Mm-hmm. Great opportunity, worked for a private equity firm, learned a lot from private money, led by a couple of great CIOs in the past, because they came in and they left. Worked with a CFO that was really brilliant in the beginning. And it's time, we're in a place where consumer goods is not easy, and we know tariffs are not easy. Mm. So, just looking at the business and how it was running, I wound up leaving the company. And, I said, I think this is the time where I can try to make this thing happen. So I went to the opportunity of trying to figure out how to do this fractionalization of fractional CIO, CTO. Mm-hmm. And, I know that I'm going on a rant, but, I'm trying to build this thing, and it's not easy, but there are ways to do it. And there's definitely opportunities that are out there because, one, companies want to save money. 2, they want to get a second opinion of what they have today. 3, it's all confidential. And then 4 and 5, it's about, helping them drive their business to where they want it to be. This is the CFOs, CTOs, COOs. You put it in whatever perspective you want. I'll talk to anybody. And, we in order to land, you have to find somebody that will actually sign the papers. But what I mean is you have to really get to have them trust you and honest you. Mm-hmm. Make sure it's an honest effort to make this thing work for them. So that's where I am today. I'm meeting some people every so often, and we have these great dialogues and just waiting for them to land.
Yeah. So let's talk about that process. Because, going over those last couple jobs, I was kind of impressed how you were able to change industries. Like, okay, then I got a job here. And it's like, it's not very easy. So what were some keys maybe from your Whole Foods background? Was that just kind of impressing people? Like, what was standing out for you on those interviews?
So it's not even just an interview. It's about a way of life. Some people get pigeonholed into one subject. And when they sit there and they work into, let's say, a developer, that's all they know. They don't have, or they might have, or whatever it is, that's their specialty. I always knew growing up, you got to be a trade of all. That's just the way I grew up. So I needed to learn not just how to fix a computer. I had to learn how to teach a team how to use it. I needed to have to get behind the scenes of it, learn software development, and do all these multiple things that have to do with IT, even cybersecurity. And in order to be better as a person and have more, fuel to the fire, or put more in my backpack so I can take it with me as a utility, like a utility belt. That's probably what I'm trying to get to, is you need to have these skills in order to move forward. Mm-hmm. So I learned a lot of that at Whole Foods, had a lot of great opportunity. The SaaS business was unbelievable, learning about stuff that you can't even host yourself. It's somewhere else in the world. Mm-hmm. Cybersecurity too. It's a crazy world today, always constantly looking at that and making that, a focus on every single business. And those are really the tools that, I learned from my past.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, start the Fractional company. It's not like companies really just post. I guess I have seen that they're looking for a fractional CTO, but how are you getting these clients and opportunities? Is it just networking? Is it selling?
So it's like I said earlier, it's not easy. There's a lot of avenues. You could be the best at what you do, but if you don't know how to get somebody in a room and talk to them, that's really where the crux of this thing is. You need to be able to find out the foundation of their business. Number one, you also have to understand it. Just don't walk in a room and not understand it. Mm-hmm. Today, I'm only meeting people via contacts that I've had in the past, but I need to land them. That's the big thing. It's not easy to land because in this day and time where we're at, it's not an easy place to be.
Mhm.
So just that 1 hour consultation will eventually lead to a business of really making this thing operational.
Okay, so you figure out what their issue is.
Correct. I happen to be focused mainly on businesses that do customer service. They do ITSM. It has to do with IT support. You could host it locally, you could host it globally, nearshore, offshore. You can even do it in your own business. That's one area. Another area is I come in and can do a security assessment, really give you the knowledge of what it looks like for you. Some people trust their IT organization of making sure that this thing is good. I have the contacts I could bring in to make sure that we give you the full report on that to show you, hey, maybe we should upgrade your firewalls. Maybe we should give a better training class process. Let's look at the switching. Let's look at the routing. Let's look at all the even the username and the database of Active Directory. I mean, these are just miscellaneous things that we can do for a business. I really focus not on the large corporation. I focus more on the small to medium business. Most of the customers I'm trying to align with are the ones that either have a very small IT infrastructure, meaning, business, or they have, none at all, and they need to move to the next level. I can come in and help them not just with the security, the help desk, the IT services. I could also help them with digital management. I could help them with, security ops, and even recommend other things that they might need for another person that could come in and take over a different role.
Mhm.
So I don't look for a full-time role. I'm looking for that 10-hour-a-week role, being able to consult with them, come up with the consistent things that they're looking for, and help them move their business forward.
Mhm.
A lot of times today with the economic structures we're in, with just what we're doing economically, they don't want to spend the money.
Yeah.
So giving them the opportunity to even have the dialogue and have the reference of what they could do, it just helps them understand what they can do and even understand if there is a time frame of what can be done.
Mhm. And so how did you decide? Because I think a lot of people, it's like they want to start their own thing, but how did you decide what to actually charge? Was it kind of based on the scope of work, based on how much time it would take, the difficulty, how much money they were making? I mean, how did you kind of figure that equation out?
So, there is a certain rate that people will only go to or will negotiate to. It's really based on what the projects will look like, what your 10 hours of the week would look like. If someone's asking me for something that's way over bounds, it might not be a lower rate than a higher rate.
Mhm.
But if it's something that can be an easy home run, it's really about understanding and giving them the opportunity to be successful from what you're providing. So I'll try to be a business partner. You build more business from other people. It's just get that signage is the most important thing. And it's obviously negotiation for anything.
Mhm.
But, if someone offered me the opportunity, this is a great question. If someone said to me today, since the world today we know thousands of people are applying for the same job in LinkedIn,
Mhm.
recruiters are losing their minds. You know that fairly well.
Of course. Absolutely.
The jobs aren't as available to yourself like they are. I mean, I'm sure you can speak to it.
Mhm.
I see it on the other end. And of course, we know AI is a huge issue, though it's really helping people. It's not helping the process.
Mhm.
And if you think it's helping the process, then it's your own opinion. But when you're someone looking for a job, looking for work, you're a recruiter that has to work extra strong, multiple more hours, reviewing and go over thousands of resumes, it's not helpful.
Yeah.
And lastly, I want to just make sure, you understand this fairly well. By the way, he's a really good recruiter, by the way. One of the main things that you got to really think about is there's jobs posted out there that aren't even real.
Yep.
And there's people trying to take your information and do stuff with it. So there's so much pain and agony of people that are struggling, trying to make money today that, if someone offered me a job from one of the resumes I sent out, I might even consider it and not fractional anymore.
Mhm.
But obviously I'd have to work that out within my contracts and an SLA. But I'll be honest, I really like working for a corporate business. I like the camaraderie. I like working with people around me. I like also working for one, two, or three people, not fearing they're losing their job. But I do like working with people that are engaged, making a difference for a business. And if someone offered me that job full time, I just might take it and take this and sidebar it for a little bit.
So how has it worked in the engagements you've won? So have they been looking for a fractional? Had they not even thought about that and you brought it to them? Were there like 4 different fractionals in the lobby? Like, how has it kind of gone down for you?
So some of the dialogues have gone where, I would only speak to them for an hour and I'm still waiting for a call back. I offer a free hour, could be 2 hours. I don't, an extra hour is not going to hurt me. I do, I want to get as much engaged with the business and help them, do the workflow or the format of what their ideas are on paper so they can see it besides just talking about it. I'm not stuck with just a 1 hour console. I'm there for even more to make sure that we are the right business to work together. It's just, it takes time because a lot of businesses get second opinions. Not easy to find somebody looking for one unless they're advertising. But, I personally, I do a lot of looking on LinkedIn. I go to networking events. I talk to all the local CIOs, CFOs, and if I find out there's an event that's on a Friday night, Thursday night, Tuesday night, I'll see if I can get get an invite to the meeting where I could actually make some dialogue. Try not to sell them during that moment, but at least have the conversations about what they're looking to do, but also getting to know them. They like the personability. They like talking to people besides just business. So it's really getting to talk to people, letting them know that you're available for a dialogue, giving them your business card, either, digital or non-digital. But you just got to keep on it. You can't just stop until you land your, in the world of 3 fractional jobs, it could be anywhere between 400 and 500,000 a year.
Right.
At an E level. So, some people even will take less or even more. But, if you manage your time right, you can do it. You just have to make sure you're doing the right thing for the client, giving the client the right environment they need. And, you get business from it. That's all.
So the advantage is, if you get 3 decent engagements, it'd be 10 hours a week, roughly, for each one.
Yeah. The theory is you're not working full time. So that saves them a lot of money off the bat too. And then, besides that and the insurance and the 401k business that they want to usually give out as an employee, that's an additional like 17 to 22%, depending on, what the labor cost is.
Yeah.
So, it all depends on what the companies are offering today. So, they look at that as a bonus that if you can prove within the first 10 hours or the first, if you even have the conversation to get the opportunity to talk to their teams, it gives you the opportunity to discuss things, move forward, and help them build or change the mindset of the team members to help move them forward.
Okay. So that discovery phase,
discovery phase is most important.
And you're creating your own potential projects. Like, I could do this for you. This would be about 100 hours. This would be 200 hours.
Yeah.
And you're building out kind of a year.
Yeah. Well, I'm really driving it to when the expectation is. If it's unrealistic, you tell the people, the CFO, CTO, et cetera, it's not a real expectation what you're looking for, but you need a lot more money to do it. You need a lot more time, a lot of people. But there are times where you can get in there and talk to them about the honesty, and they like that more than you just forcing it in the door. They're going to know results within the first 10 hours to 20 hours that you're actually doing something. I've seen it myself. So I know the difference between someone who's physically able to do this thing to someone that just, I'm getting 10 hours a week from somebody. Let's see how long this goes. So, but it's not like that. You have to really focus on the business itself. I recommend knowing the business on how it works and operates, because I wouldn't take any role that I don't really fully understand the business, though I can recommend what they could do or who they can talk to. I'll still talk to them within that hour of time just to help them. And I'm not wasting their time. I'll be straight out honest that, maybe I don't understand the lawyer business, or maybe I don't understand a doctor's business. I'm not going to tell them, hey, we can do bells and whistles.
Right.
It's going to cost you more because I don't know everything that's going to be effective here and how fast we can get there for whatever your drive needs to be.
You think that's been effective for you where you come in and say, hey, listen, I'm not the guy for this, but I could do your service management, I see a million issues here and clean that up, right?
Yeah, usually when you meet people, you talk to them through that stuff. A lot of big businesses do that already. They already offshore stuff. I know offshore is a big topic today. Why are we doing this? And I don't want to be one of those bad people that people look at saying, why, you're taking an American job away. I'm not, though. I'm giving opportunities to say, this is what it costs for A, this is what it costs for B, what it costs for C. I'll help drive whatever you want as long as, we keep this thing where it makes sense for your business. You want all your clients to succeed, obviously. Otherwise, that's really it. Like I said earlier, I do anything cybersecurity related. If you don't think you have the right tools for the teams, let me at least do an assessment of what you're using. If you're considering going from one ERP to another ERP, and then you're deciding we got to spend this much money for this, and we have to spend this for much more money for this, we can sit down and have a good hour dialogue on just ERP buying and selling today and how you can go about approaching it. I can help you lead the projects with the workflows for the business on showing you this is for a manufacturer or someone who's, doing, product to cash, all that stuff. It's very easy to put together and kind of understand. There's other things that a lot of companies are trying to do today is simplify the document transformation, either via EDI, AS2. This is where a sales order is getting into your system. They don't want it to be handheld. They want a system to just throw files in and being able to import fairly quickly and get that process moving for the sales order. To get the purchase order, to get the sales order and get the delivery of the money back. That's the order to cash. So there's a lot of companies that are still trying to land that and figure that out, that there are a lot of tools and ways to make that easier and cost effective. Yeah.
So I'm going to have you give some tips on someone as they're navigating their career, how they can maybe you really teed yourself up well for this kind of post-corporate life with the fractional. But what do you what do you like better? Seems like 30 hours a week, making multiple six figures is not too bad.
Well, it's more than 30 hours a week.
Well, yeah, right. But it can be 30 hours a week. You're right. I mean, you're under full-time total, right? Under 40?
A regular corporate office, 40 to 50, maybe even 60 hours a week sometimes. Fractional, and it depends on the week. You can do an hour a week, 2 hours a week, 10 hours a week. Most people drive for a 10-hour schedule.
Total. Or between all?
No, per client.
Per client. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But if there's project related stuff, you kind of give the forecast of what the next 10 hours for 2 months looks like. So at least you're on the same page with the guy who's paying you.
Yeah.
It's not like, they know they're paying you for certain hours. You get what you give, some of the recommendations to get back to your beginning question is, to me, being in this position, or getting into this position is, what are the 3 things that you do best for a business? And then if you can think that out of those 3 things, you can make money out of it, then go for it. Because right now you're not going to get a job if you're laid off. If you do, you have to know somebody to get the job.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing today. 100%. I know a lot of people, but a lot of people are not hiring that E level, and they're not hiring the senior VP levels. They're not hiring even director levels. Yeah. And if they're hiring those director levels, it's still a lot less money than what we were just being paid. A lot of competition out there. So this is what I'm saying. If you're focused on, let me just say this one thing. Growing up, someone asked me in one of the school grades, 2nd, 3rd grade, what I wanted to be when I grow up. I always said I want to be a CIO. I want to be a guy who's a executive of business. I don't want to be the CEO. And this is Trump days, back when he was in New York in the 80s. I'm dating myself. In the 80s, when he was a very popular person with Reagan as a president. And all I wanted to be was a chief executive, just because it was so aware that business was a huge thing. And being an executive is where I wanted to be. So, it's you have the opportunity. You can't land those CIO roles. I haven't really tried for the CIO roles. I'd rather be that guy that's between the strategy world and the tactical world. Because if you look at the two windows with strategy on one side and tactics on the other, you can't be in the middle in this role. You got to be closer to the 3/4 of a way to strategy. And that really is in your mindset. That's where you should be to being in this fractional role, because you're not expanding out more than 3 or 4 subjects. For me, it's cybersecurity, keeping your business safe, technology, ITSM. And if you want to go down the road of anything with development or AI, I have the knowledge as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you're a small to medium business looking for cybersecurity, AI, or ITSM, need a fractional guy, this is your guy right here. So, Daniel, thanks so much. This was really great. Again, you're our first person kind of in this situation where, this new world, 2025, uncertainty, more people are looking to do what you're doing. So this was very informative, and thanks for coming.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And we'll catch you guys next time.